Good evening, viewers, and welcome to the special episode of In Conversation with People That Matter. Today we have with us Mr. Maling Gumbu, who is the Secretary of the Indian Himalayan Council of Nalanda Buddhist Tradition. He will walk us through uh, the world of Buddhism, uh, how Buddhism is spread over different decades and how it has connected people, civilizations, and more importantly, we will get to hear about how Buddhism actually went from India to Tibet and the role of the Padmasambhava, who's also known as the Rinpoche or the Lotus Born, and with him, the civilizational connect, the history, and wherever his footprints are present in the Himalayas and in the foothills, we get to learn about not just Buddhism, but about a whole lot of other things, about people connecting with each other, learning about uh, not just Buddhism, but a lot of different aspects of Buddhism that connect to their personal lives, that connect to their own religions. So it's really very interesting. And my foray into the Padmasambhava and the world of the Nalanda Buddhism actually started very recently when I came across some Buddhist scholars in from the Calcutta University and in North Bengal and also in Arunachal. And that's when I really started to understand the significance of this in our own lives today. So, Mr. Gumbu, welcome to our program at the Borderlands. We would love to hear from you. So, I would just like to start off by asking you kindly tell us firstly about uh, the organization that you sort of work for, and what do you all do, and how do you sort of take the message of the Buddha and the message of really peace and love across the different places that you travel to.
Good evening, Mr. Bidayak Das from the Borderlands. It is a pleasure talking to you today. Uh, as you stated that I am working with the Indian Himalayan Council of Nalanda Buddhist Tradition. This is a trans-Himalayan organization which was, started in the year 2018, and then this is being developed as a national sangha body, working on the Nalanda Buddhism all across the Indian Himalayan region. So now all the countries, Buddhist countries, have their own national sangha bodies. But India, has doesn't have a national sangha body. So we were focusing on the Nalanda Buddhism, and then we have developed this Indian Himalayan Council of Nalanda Buddhist Tradition as a trans-Himalayan, national sangha body as far as India is concerned on the Nalanda Buddhism. So now this was started with the initiation of the people from the Himalayan region, starting from Arunachal to Ladakh, and then with the blessings of His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama, and then the heads of other all the four traditions of the Nalanda tradition are what we call commonly the Mahayana tradition. So this is how it started, and then it was very felt necessary to have a national sangha body which will be looking after the issues of Nalanda Buddhism all across the Indian Himalayan region. Now, the Indian Himalayan region, which borders with Tibet all across our northern borders, is strategically also very important because the Indian Himalayan region, starting from Ladakh, Himachal, then you have Sikkim, Arunachal, then parts of North Bengal, then Uttarakhand. So these are all basically inhabited by people who are practicing the Nalanda Buddhist tradition. And then when Buddhism finished almost from the rest of India, it was only in the borderlands, in the Indian Himalayan region that the Nalanda Buddhists prevailed all through the years, and then developed also with the patronage, and then the help from the Buddhist masters from Tibet also, which also helped in developing the Nalanda Buddhism all across the Indian Himalayan region. So it was with this objective to strengthen the concept of Nalanda Buddhism all across the Himalayan region, and then to also emphasize Nalanda, that is India, as the birth place of Buddhism, from where it spread to the all parts of the world, including Tibet. So this is how the Indian Himalayan Council of Nalanda Buddhist Tradition was started in the year 2018. And then since then we have been able to consolidate and then develop the platform for all the Nalanda masters who are Indian Nalanda masters, the Rinpoches, the Geshes, the monks, and the monastic community, to come forward on one platform, and then strengthen the concept of Nalanda Buddhism all across the Indian Himalayan region. So that is about the organization. So we are looking into the practicing of the Nalanda Buddhism across the Himalayan region. And then one major component is the monasteries that are there as the living religion practiced across the Himalayan region, and the number of monks who are studying and taking monastic education in these monasteries. So for the development of their education also, we are working with the Himalayan people.
So the Nalanda Buddhist tradition, I mean, it goes back centuries, right? I mean, and why did we have to revive? Like you said, there was a time when, if I am, please correct me where I'm wrong, but that it disappeared, and then it was only around the hills and the periphery that the Buddhist masters from Tibet started to really spread the importance of the Nalanda Buddhist tradition. So, what really happened, and how did the revival take place?
Now, talking about the Buddhism and then the spread of Buddhism across the world. Now, when we look towards the borderlands, especially the Arunachal and then other places across the Himalayan region, then comes the important contribution of Guru Padma Sambhava, who was a great Buddhist, a scholar and a master, who has attained the Bodhicitta and the Siddha, a great master. So he was also in the Nalanda University, and then before him, it was Acharya Santarakshita, who was also from the Nalanda University that time, and it was during probably 7th to 8th century when Shantarakshita traveled from India to Tibet uh, on the invitation of the then king of Tibet, Trisong Drichen. He was a great Dharma king after Songtsen Gyampo. So during his time, he had invited Acharya Santarakshita to Tibet. And then there were some issues of construction of monastery in the Tibet region, and then it was becoming difficult. So it was on the advice of Acharya Santarakshita, who advised the king Trisong Ritsin, that there is a great master, Guru Padma Sambhava, who is a great siddha, and then who can construct the monastery here. So he should be invited. So on his advice, King Trisong region had invited the great Guru Padma Sambhava, who is also considered as the second Buddha. So he was invited to Tibet, and it was during that his journey to Tibet in the 7th, 8th century that Guru Padma Sambhava traveled through the Mon region, through Nepal, through Bhutan, and then he went towards Tibet. So the establishment of the Buddhism in the Mon region, or even in the Nepal and Bhutan border areas, was started before it was in Tibet, because it was on his way to Tibet that Guru Padma Sambhava, converted the people in the Mon region, in the Himalayan region, into Buddhism. And that is the point of time of introduction of Buddhism, because before Buddhism, these areas had the practice of Bon religion. Bon religion was again a nature worship, animist practice that was prevalent in the Himalayan region, and even in Tibet. So it was the Bon region, Bon religion which was practiced. So there was a lot of resistance when Guru Padmasambhava introduced Buddhism into this region, across the Himalayan region. And then he, after that, he established the Bon religion, and then with his divine powers, he converted those evil spirits into the protector of the Buddha Dharma. So the history goes to tell that many of the deities who were opposing the conversion of the region to Buddhism were being tamed by Guru Padma Sambhava, and then they were converted, and then they accepted to be the protector of the Buddha Dharma in this region. So that is how you will find that all across the Himalayan region we have the footprints of Guru Padma Sambhava. There are sacred pilgrimage sites in Bhutan, like Paro Taksang. Tiger Hill is the great pilgrimage center of Guru Rinpoche. Likewise, in Mon region in Tawang, we have the Taksang again, a pilgrimage site of Guru Rinpoche, where you have the holy caves, his footprints, his body marks in the Taksang pilgrimage area. And then again in the Mon area towards Bhutan and India border, in a place called Bleteng, there's again a pilgrimage site called Gomshing. And there are a lot of other places in Tawang like Domsang, Karpochang, and then many other holy places which were blessed by Guru Padma Sambhava in the 8th century. And then that is how the Buddhism started in these places. And after that, his journey into Tibet, and then he stayed for quite a number of years in Tibet, and then established the Buddha Dharma in Tibet. And then that is how the oldest tradition of practice of Buddhism, which is contributed to Guru Padma Sambhava, is called the Nyingma tradition. So if you see historically, during the 8th century, after 8th century, 9th century, 10th century, 11th century, 12th century, you find the development of the Nyingma tradition, and then the Kagyu tradition. The Kagyu tradition was with the starting of the Naropa and Marpa, the great masters, and then the lineage of Kagyu tradition, which was later on Karmapa tradition, His Holiness Karmapa's tradition started. So all these things were there all across Himalayan region, and then Tibet. So when I am talking about the Himalayan region, it includes the parts of Himalayan regions of Nepal, and then Bhutan, and then the Mongol, the Mon region, and then Tibet, and then going to Sikkim, and then to Ladakh, and then Himachal. All these places we find the footprints of Guru Padmasambhava. So
Right.
that is how it developed all across the Himalayan region. And then we call this Nalanda tradition on a broader scale, as opposed to Tibetan Buddhism or opposed to Mahayan Buddhism, because the roots of the Buddhism that spread across the Himalayan region and Tibet by the great Master Guru Padma Sambhava were, based from Nalanda University.
The way he brought about, like you said, how he tamed the deities, and these are stories. I mean, even for a person who's, let's say, quote unquote, non-Buddhist, a person who's not a practicing Buddhist, let's say, does not is not from the religion, but these stories are so fascinating to understand, and why these things had taken place. Why did he tame? Because that very story of taming the deities and making them the protectors of the religion, and a religion that is understood as a religion of peace, and that's what it is. But I just want to ask you this question about the Guru Padma Sambhava, because we've seen of late, and not of late actually, this has been going on for quite some time. There has been a controversy, if I could use that word, regarding his birthplace. Now, we at least in our own understanding, we there is there is, let's say, a dispute between whether he was born in the kingdom of the Udayana, which is seen as what is the current Orissa, or some people, or rather, there are also records that say that he was born in the Swat Valley, which is now in Pakistan. But China also claims, China has made several claims that the Guru's Padmasambhava was actually from China. He was born there. At the same time, they have also gone ahead and destroyed a lot of, let's say, structures, a lot of statues, and a lot of monasteries that had the imprints of the Guru Padmasambhava. So all these, all these put together really makes sometimes, let's say, for us to wonder where was the Guru born, and how long will this controversy remain, and how will we be able to, let's say, establish at some point of time to not allow this dispute to become bigger, that the Padmasambhava was born in a particular place in history, and that's how he sort of has taken the religion forward.
Yes, it is a quite interesting question on the birth and the origin of the great master Guru Padmasambhava. But nonetheless, it is a historical fact that we had a great master, Guru Padmasambhava, who had impacted the development of Buddhism across the world. Now, as far as the origin or the birthplace of Guru Padmasambhava is concerned, there are varying opinions. As you already said that whether he was born in the Swat Valley, which is in Pakistan, or also that whether he was born in Odiana, which is presently in Odisha in India. But if you see, we need to still, I think, because of the lack of historical, evidences, that we are not able to, ultimately settle this issue of the birth of the great master. But then, as far as whatever historical evidences are, the research that has been done in the field, what it looks like, it is talking about his, he was adopted by the king, and then he developed, and then the geographical area shows somewhere it was an island and those sort of things. So there are some group of scholars who are believing with their resources of research, that it is more of Odiana, because he is also called the Urgen master, which is referring to the Odiana, which is present place in Odisha. So there are a group of writers and research scholars who are pointing towards Odiana, that is present Odisha as his birthplace. There is a lot of research being done in that, as opposed to the Swat Valley. So this is a issue of historical research and then evidence, I think. But it nowhere says that as China has claimed, as you are saying, that he was also born in that side of the world. There is no much of the talk or evidences as far as China is concerned, but there is substantial research and then evidence that is being developed as far as his birth is concerned, as far as Odiana is concerned, and then also the Swat Valley. I think there is still much more work to be done, and then we will be able to settle this issue of the origin or the birth of the great master. But nonetheless, what we really focus is on the important contribution and then the work that Guru Padma Sambhava did in spreading the Nalanda Buddhism. And then we have today great masters all across Himalayan region and in Tibet, who were great practitioners, who developed the teachings that was left by him. So that is more important. And then it is also important that it impacts the lives of so many people. And then Buddhism today also is a growing. religion at the international and the global level also. So because of that, China, is trying to develop different narratives as far as Buddhism is concerned. That trying to own the Buddhist tradition as far as China is concerned, and then creating even replicas of the holy places of Buddha in towards China side, and then developing the Buddhist history, orienting more towards Chinese side. But that nonetheless, the whole world knows that it is Buddhism which originated in India, and then all the holy places of Buddha are in India, and then it is the Buddha, it is the India which is the birthplace of Buddhism, and then it is India which has given this knowledge of way of living of Buddhism towards the whole world and the humanity.
Yeah, but just this question again, I just like to stretch it a little bit more, if you would allow me to. When China says that Buddhism originated in China, and we all know that Buddhism, I mean, the way it is seen, has come from Tibet. And I guess Buddhism went, like you've mentioned, with the Padmasambhava from here to Tibet, and then it was spread out. But China would like to believe or like to tell the world that Buddhism originated in China, and now because Tibet is within the Chinese administration's control, so therefore the narratives are but naturally coming out of Beijing to try and prove to the world that Buddhism actually originated, and they even the claim that probably the Buddha was from China. I mean, and there are different kind of claims the Chinese can make. So, I mean, China with all these narratives is only causing disruptions to how Buddhism, both the Theravada Buddhism and the other form of Buddhism is spreading across the world. So, how do you as an expert and a person, a believer and a practitioner of the religion, how do you think all these sort of uh, are these a cause of concern, and how do you address these sort of kind of narratives that keep on emerging from China at different points of time? Are you really worried?
No, it is very usual for China to create different stories and then narratives as far as Buddhism is concerned, and then linking it to His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. So there's nothing new about that thing, but the world doesn't take all these stories very seriously as far as China is concerned. It is a well established, fact across the world today that, Buddhism, it all originated from India. The great master, Lord Buddha, attained the enlightenment at Bodh Gaya, and then it all went. Now, as far as the Buddhism in China is concerned, it is older than Tibet because the great traveler Huan and Fa Yan and all other travelers who came from China to India at that point of time came here and then studied Buddhism and then went back and then developed Buddhism in China. That is how Buddhism, developed in China and then went to China from India only. Now, if Buddhism would have been originating from China, as they would say it, but then that would have influenced Tibet. Tibet now China claims is always a part of China, and then Tibet was never an independent country. Whereas Tibet got influence the Buddhism, the Tibetan Buddhism which they developed there. It went from India, from Nalanda. So it was two different types of Buddhism that was existing in China, which again went from India, and then again the Tibetan Buddhism which developed in Tibet, which again went from India. So it is that way very clear. There's no doubt or anything of any slightest doubt as far as China is concerned and as far as the origin of Buddhism is concerned. So it is only the different stories and narratives which China is trying to develop, but then the world is not serious about what they are saying and then concerned about what China is saying. So that is not a big issue. What we are concerned about is the development of the Nalanda Buddhism across the Himalayan region. And then as I was saying that, the Himalayan region, Nalanda Buddhism also got developed later by the contributions from the Tibetan side as Buddhism developed in Tibet. But at the same time, there are evidences to show now that Buddhism first went from India through Guru Padmasambhava in the 8th century when he was on his way to Tibet. That is where Guru Padmasambhava established Buddhism in the Himalayan region, be it in Nepal, be it in Bhutan, and then the Mon region, and then the other parts of Himalayan region on his way to Tibet. So he established, and there are written records by great writers like T.S. Murthy, where he has said that Padmasambhava converted the Himalayan region of Monpa area, Monyul, Bhutan, into Buddhism in the 8th century when he was traveling to Tibet. So that is how the established. Later on, developments happened. There was cross-border movements. We are talking about a very long space of time of hundreds and thousands of years in which people were migrating from places to places. It was a different period of the development of human race. So we find, but in all those across Buddhism, the great principles of Buddhism, was a great blessing for the people in the Himalayan region who were earlier practicing the Bon religion and other practices. They took over to Buddhism because of the Guru Padmasambhava and his work on Buddhism.
Some of these organizations have been saying that talking about Buddhism in China and the purity of Buddhism in China, a narrative which seems to be contradictory to the way you have spoken about the Nalanda Buddhism or the Buddhism that was practiced from the time of the Padmasambhava until now.
I am not much aware of what you are saying about the Tibetan organizations which are based in Tibet now, which is under the control of China. So naturally, the organizations there would be speaking the language of the Chinese government, what they want, what sort of narratives, what they want to develop. But as far as we are concerned, and then His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama has always also been emphasizing that the Indian Buddhism or the Tibetan Buddhism is the basis is the Sanskrit tradition. Now in Buddhism we have the Mahayana Buddhism and Theravada Buddhism. So the Mahayana Buddhism, which is Nalanda Buddhism, is Sanskrit based, Sanskrit tradition, whereas the Theravada tradition is Pali tradition. So there the language or the medium of promotion of the religion that happened a long time back was that the Mahayana Nalanda tradition was mostly through the Sanskrit tradition. All the literature that was developed was in Sanskrit, which was later on the important text of Kanjur and Tenjur, which is there in Mahayana Buddhism, which are the main words of Lord Buddha and the practices of the bhikshus and the monastic community. This Kanjur and Tenjur, they were all in Sanskrit, and then they were translated into Bhoti language or the Tibetan language by the scholars later on. So they say that when the Nalanda University was burned down, a lot of literature was lost. But that same thing is now, protected in the Tibetan tradition of Buddhism. We find all these books. So, it is basically the basis of the tradition which we are looking into the Nalanda tradition, which came from the Sanskrit tradition, and the Theravada tradition, which came from the Pali tradition, has certain slightly differences because of the medium of the spreading of the religion is concerned. So as far as that is concerned, the Chinese that thing, that narrative is because of the that thing. But as far as the Nalanda Buddhism, as I was saying, is developed from the Sanskrit tradition. So His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama always emphasizes that the Buddhism that we call Tibetan Buddhism, or the even the Chinese Buddhism and other things, are all Nalanda Buddhism, which went from Nalanda. So, it is even the Mahayan tradition is the Nalanda tradition. That is why now we are saying that it is a Nalanda tradition, and then the India as the home of Buddhism.
Yeah.
That is what is the narrative or the concept of Buddhism, which is practiced in the Himalayan region, and then the Mahayan practicing countries like be it Tibet, be it China, be it Mongolia, and then the Korea. These are all Mahayan Nalanda practicing countries. So that is why we are saying that it is Nalanda Buddhism. So there may be some problem with some organizations and some people when they want to say ki, what is this Nalanda Buddhism. But this is the historical background of Nalanda Buddhism, and then it traces back to Guru Padma Sambhava and Acharya Shantarakshita, who were also from Nalanda, and then that is how the principles of Nalanda tradition, which is logic, reasoning, and then understanding, that gives a scientific approach to the Buddhist religion more as a way of life. So that is the basis of stressing on the concept of Nalanda Buddhism.
There is definitely an understanding, that one understanding, that we have a common root, we have a common path, we have a common goal, and there is not much of a difference. I think it is about all religion. Although Hinduism and Buddhism, they share common roots and they have common grounds, like you've mentioned. Sanskrit plays a huge role here
Mhm.
insofar as the Mahayana Buddhism is concerned. Pali plays a huge role insofar as Theravada Buddhism is concerned. But also about other religions, they have their own connection. There is a common root, and everybody really praise to whosoever that one God is. So I think in today's world and time, when there's so much conflict with the religion playing a part, I think this kind of discourse about the Nalanda Buddhism and how really Buddhism as a religion is seen as the religion of peace is very important. Thank you for your time. This discussion will continue because it is so elaborate and there's so much more to learn. But thank you for your time. We shall get you again and definitely discuss more about the spread of Nalanda Buddhism. Thank you so much.